Welcome to Women Working in Wealth from the American College Center for Women in Financial Services. Join us as we showcase unique career opportunities and dispel myths surrounding the financial services profession through conversations with industry leaders.
Welcome to Women Working in Wealth. I'm your host, Lindsey Lewis. Today we have the unique privilege to hear from Kathleen Burns Kingsbury. Kathleen, or KBK, is a consultant, trainer, coach, and author. She's a FinServ subject matter expert, an adjunct professor, and the host of the Breaking Money Silence podcast. We are thrilled to have her. So Kathleen, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lindsey. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today.
Perfect. You were at the top of my list to interview, so I'm very excited.
Ooh.
I would love for you to share with our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Other than what you said, I have a company called KBK Wealth Connection, which is training, consulting, and coaching. I am very passionate about coaching and educating women on how to be more financially confident and educating financial advisors on how to do a better job with women and couples.
Such an important message. And I think given the current landscape, so needed in our industry. We love to get into the nitty gritty around money stories here. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your money story and how it has shaped you both personally and professionally.
Well, I love talking about money stories because I spend a lot of time doing that when I'm working with my clients. So a lot of different parts to my money story, but I think the one that's applicable to what we're talking about today is twofold. I grew up where I was born. I think this was my money personality. I was born a saver and conservative, and I loved like my piggy bank, and I used to go to the bank, and I used to, deposit $2 and look at it in my passbook savings and then do another $2. I mean, I just love the whole idea of saving money. And as I got into the business world and I started working actually as an FDIC bank examiner out of college, I got to use that skill, right? So now I'm balancing banks and I'm seeing the movements in and out. And so it served me quite well to be a saver and to be conservative. But what ended up happening is when I decided to go off to be an entrepreneur and to start the venture that I have now, what I discovered is that being conservative and also, my words, not yours, being a little cheap when it came to spending money, investing money, and really thinking about how to ask for what I'm worth, it ended up being that it was, at the very beginning, hard to run a profitable business. I really had trouble asking and getting paid what I was worth and needed to do my own work in terms of my money mindset in order to embrace success, in order to, invest a little bit more, risky, and to really be able to, embrace all the different aspects of money, not just the saving.
Wow, I am really impressed by kind of that mind change, especially going from a saver to an entrepreneur. So if, you were giving advice to someone that kind of has that initial money narrative of, I'm going to save all this money, and then switch to an entrepreneur where you're, might be spending money or thinking about money differently, kind of what advice would you give to someone that is thinking about taking that step to entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. I think for me, just so you know, Lindsey, I was an entrepreneur, I think, by nature. So it's this weird mix of being conservative around money. And also my first business, I was a dog walking business when I was, 10. I walked like 2 dogs in the neighborhood. But I think when it comes to thinking about starting your own business or being entrepreneurial, which I know a lot of women in financial services are, whether they're in a company or whether they're, doing their own thing, I think what it is really looking at what are the strengths of your mindset? How does that help you as an entrepreneur? And what are some of the roadblocks? And we all have them. So there's no right or wrong money mindset. There's just the one that you have. So certainly with the saving and being thrifty, that helps you at the beginning of starting a business. But at some point, you need to invest in yourself, you need to invest in the business, and you need to certainly price yourself at the right price point. And so, my advice would be to do the money mindset work. I think it's great that you asked this question on the podcast, because even just 5 years ago, the financial services industry wasn't really talking about money stories. And our money story, our conscious and unconscious thoughts, impact us so much. So as entrepreneurs, I think one of the best parts of being an entrepreneur, and also one of the most challenging parts of being an entrepreneur, is that you learn so much about yourself. So if you're starting out or you're pretty new to business, I say do the money mindset work now. Start to get clear as to what that is. That not only is good for you in terms of investing in your business, it's also going to be good in working with clients. So for a financial services professional, it's kind of twofold, which is cool.
Really great points there. I think one thing that we can get is, finding your strengths in that money mindset and investing in yourself, which leads me to my next question. You work as a coach for financial advisors. So explain to our audience what it means to be a coach for financial advisors.
Sure. I think being a coach for financial advisors can mean lots of things. So I'm going to tell you kind of the types of coaching that I do, knowing that there's a whole bunch of other really great coaches out there as well. So when I'm working with a financial advisor, it's usually around, 2 or 3 things. People come to me because I have a subject matter expertise in women and wealth and how to connect with women, how to communicate with diverse audiences, and really thinking through, if you want to serve a particular segment in the female market, how can you go about doing that in a way that's thoughtful and is incorporated into everything you do, from your marketing to how you run your discovery sessions, to how you think about doing events, or how you train your staff. So there's that piece. I also do something for advisors who are a little bit more advanced, who are working with couples or working with families. And there's all those dynamics around the human side of finance, the family dynamics, the couples dynamics. And so often I'll coach those types of advisors around, how do you understand those relationships and how it impacts their financial life? And then how do you make sure that you're making the recommendations that make sense? Sometimes I'll work in their business. In other words, I'll work with them, and sometimes they'll refer that particular client to me. And then lastly, one of the things that I love to do that's really started up since the pandemic, for me, it's the gift of the pandemic, is I'm helping a lot of financial services professionals, especially women, identify what's their value in the marketplace and how do they ask and get paid what they're worth. And I just absolutely love doing that work. So for me, it's those 3 different things.
Sounds like you are a busy woman. I do have a couple of questions that sparked from that beautiful overview. So my first question is, do you work with both male and female, non-binary, gays, theys, and theys when it comes to the individuals that you coach? Or do you primarily target specifically women?
Absolutely. I mean, if someone comes to me and they feel like I have the skills that can help them get their business to the next level or get themselves to the next level, I'm very open to working with people, no matter how they identify, what their sexual orientation is, or what their culture and race is.
Wonderful. It got the wheels turning when you talked about marketing and, am I a woman marketing to a woman? Am I a man marketing to a woman? Just thinking about those dynamics.
Absolutely.
Also, piggybacking on that question, you mentioned you talk about, the behavioral finance part of money with, advisors, with the human part, the couple part. Are there any, initial nuggets or takeaways that really help individuals have those conversations more effectively?
Well, it's interesting because I've been training and doing keynote presentations and writing books and coaching advisors for well over a decade now on the human side of finance. And I think one of the things that I often hear is a resistance or a fear that if you start talking about finance and feelings, that your clients are going to fire you, or they're going to, they're going to be offended. And what I find is, I think the first step for any advisor out there is you need to become comfortable with the fact that there is a human side of finance. And one of the things that I think is cool when we're talking about people who identify as women is that they often feel more comfortable in that realm just naturally for whatever reason. And I know that's a broad brush. I don't want to stereotype anybody, but that's what I find. And so I think first accepting that there's a human side of finance, and then really building up the muscles of how can you get curious? How can you ask about more than just the dollars and cents? Because our clients don't live in the technical side of finance. That's why they come to us. They live in their world, which is full of feelings and reactions and fear and joy. And so really going for what does, this financial plan mean to you? When you think about your goals, your objectives, your values, why are they important to you? And so I think if you are incredibly curious and a good listener, you can do a great job with the human side of finance. And if you feel like you're not, no worries, you can be trained to do so.
Staying curious is really the key. That
Huge.
The third part of your business is around helping women identify their worth and their niche market. So maybe walk us through a couple of steps that you walk your clients through when exploring.
Sure. No, I think that's a great question. So really, I think one of the things that happens when you're talking about negotiating and asking for your worth is we usually skipped right, Lindsey, to the skills. Like, okay, teach me a strategy, teach me something that's, a script. And we skip right over our negotiation mindset. So the first thing I do with my coaching clients, whether they're individual, in a group, a masterclass that's online, whatever it is, we delve into what is your negotiation mindset? What are your automatic thoughts and beliefs about negotiation? If your gender, your culture, your religion, your race, your socioeconomic status impacts how you think about negotiation, we try to uncover that. And then again, we look for what are your strengths? And I just said this last night in my masterclass. I had everybody identify what's your superpower when it comes to negotiating and what's your kryptonite. And so we want to reinforce all the strength you already have because everybody has it and everybody's negotiating all the time, even though they don't know they are. And then really looking at how do we address any of the kryptonite elements to your mindset. So I really delve into the mindset first, and I would encourage people to do that. And I think the second thing is to really surround yourself with a community. It can be, and sometimes it's better if it's diverse, of people that can catch you when you are saying things like, well, I just want to be affordable, or, I'm new to the field, so I can't charge that much, or all these things that make us smaller. If you have supportive people around you and a community around you that can catch you and go, well, wait a second, it's fine to be affordable, but are you determining what's affordable, or is your client determining what's affordable? And so again, it usually comes back to the mindset. And yes, there's skills that people need to learn, but I think if we do that work, then we can really put those skills to use.
You took my next question away from me, which was around what if you have a negative mindset? Because it seems like a lot of the foundation of your work is around that mindset. And if you have a negative mindset, maybe it's harder to figure out what your superpower is, or, we're kind of trained to be humble and compliant. And so it's, how do you identify that, or how do you reframe your mind to, get out of a negative mindset, whether that's learned or culturally based or gender based. So what would be your first step if I'm going to get out of a negative mindset?
Well, the first step, Lindsey, would be I would encourage you not to call it a negative mindset. It's just a thought that you're having. And when we have thoughts, they impact our emotions, they impact our behavior. And so I would identify it and say, okay, this is a thought that you want to work on. And the first step would be examining, is that particular mindset or that particular thought, is that a fact, or is that based on some history or some emotion? Because there are facts, that we need to deal with that when we're in an industry, when we're negotiating, when we're pricing. But a lot of it comes to be, it feels like a fact because it's going around in our head. For instance, if you go and you say, oh, I hate negotiating my fee, or I don't want to talk to my clients about money, not money, but your fees. I hope you want to talk about money if you're a financial advisor. But if you go in with that energy. What's going to happen is each time a negotiation comes, you're going to feel negative. I'm going to use your word. You're going to not feel good about it. And so the reframing is starting to identify, is it a fact? And if it's not a fact, then what are the facts and how do I come up with a new mantra? And the dilemma, although it works, and I've certainly done this work myself, is it takes a while to change your brain waves and to change your thoughts. So instead of going, oh, I hate negotiation, go, negotiation's part of my job. And I look forward to this negotiation, or even just being neutral around it is going to be better than, oh, I have to negotiate. So it's coming up with new money mantras to replace some of these problematic thoughts that you have. And again, sometimes you have a problematic thought that gets in the way of negotiating, but it may be really helpful in another area of your financial life. And that's why I don't like to just do the black and white negative or positive thoughts. They're just thoughts that happen to impact how we behave.
Thoughts that we say, is it a fact or is it not a fact? And what is the underlying fact? I love that very much. Thank you so much, KBK. Let's take a quick break.
At the American College Center for Women in Financial Services, we're promoting the advancement of women in the industry through research, education, and awareness. Become one of our Women Working in Wealth ambassadors. Keep up with our latest news and events, and learn how you can help break the bias at womencenter.theamericancollege.edu.
Let's hop back into our conversation with KBK. My question with you, you mentioned the mindset and then the community. So let's say in your normal network, you don't necessarily have those individuals of diverse mindset or that are going to lift you up. So what advice would you give to someone that wants to branch out from their initial network to find that community that has, the positive or the good money mindset, is looking at the facts, knows how to negotiate? Like, how can I find my community? Where's my people? Where's my tribe?
Well, one of the things that I think you're doing at your center is really create tribe. So I think in some ways, really looking to places like the Women's Center to be able to connect with women who are looking at these particular issues. Now, there could be other people in your tribe as well. What I always encourage people to do is to really notice what other people are saying about money and negotiating. And it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could be a coach. It could be one or two friends. It could be one colleague here, one there. But the people that you can break money silence with, that you can have these conversations with. And part of the reason I put together my masterclass is because there's a group component, because I want people to have that sense of community. For me, I am lucky that I met one, and now there's 3 other girlfriends that are all in a similar business, not all in financial services, but we are that for each other. And so it's really nice to be able to talk through a negotiation with somebody, or if you land something, to celebrate it together, or if you leave money on the table, to go, oh, I left money on the table. But it's just nice to have that support. So I would say just pay attention. Look out for people. And again, it's not even that everybody has to have a perfect mindset. It's just you're willing to break money silence and have these conversations. And I think the key, Lindsey, and I don't know if you agree, I would love your opinion on this, is that it's women that will celebrate you and celebrate your successes. And that sometimes, unfortunately, is a little bit hard to find. But those are the people you want to hang out with.
We, at our Women Working in Wealth Summit, we created a pledge. And part of that pledge was around combating horizontal oppression. So really looking for those women that are going to celebrate your wins. Horizontal oppression is where if you feel like you are minority group or an oppressed group, you feel like you're competing with one another. And so you're going for the one seat at the table. And so instead of looking at everyone as your competition, you're looking at that singular woman or that singular person of color or whatever. So I think it is about, finding those people that celebrate your wins and not looking at it in a competitive lens. And, let's move this needle together. As you're successful, that helps me be successful. That helps me, negotiate my fees. That helps me find new clients. So really thinking about that. So I'm definitely on the same page with you there.
Let me jump in. Can I jump in real quick? So I had a
Yes.
speaking coach once that said something really was very helpful because, keynote speaking can be nerve-wracking. And so I used to, have trouble if the person before me or somebody really hit it out of the park, right? They were really a great speaker. And then all of a sudden you're like, and now Kathleen Burns Kingsbury. And so that would be very hard for me. And so what she said to me had never occurred to me before. And it was, if you step on stage after the person who has just knocked it out of the park, she has set it up. So now you can knock it out of the park as well. I had always looked at like, oh, they're going to be the top rated speaker and, where am I going to be? And it really shifted things that we can all be successful together. Not a message I grew up with in my family. It's not a message I grew up in the 80s, where greed is good and you got to, beat out the competition. But it feels so good when you have that mindset. And I've had that for a number of years. And what a gift that coach gave me, because I love that mindset.
That is such a gift. And I think especially for women that are career changers or growing up in this industry, setting the stage with, okay, because KBK did this, I can do it and also knock it out of the park, which is so encouraging and so optimistic, which leads me to my next question, which is, what is the business case for someone to consider a career in financial services, and especially women?
So I love that question. First and foremost, I want everybody to know that I'm not a financial advisor and I have never been a financial advisor, but I have hung out with financial advisors for years. So I love this industry and I certainly have worked with a lot of financial advisors given, what I do for a living. And when we look at, and most people who are listening probably know this, but when we look at the wealth transfer, that 70% is going to women, that women control the majority of wealth already, that we influence, over 11.2 trillion in assets that's going to bump up in the next 10 years or less to 22 trillion, that we're starting businesses at a fast rate. Female breadwinners are now up to like 51% of, family households are female breadwinners. So, all of these things point to the fact that the future is female. The future is also very diverse. So I don't want to just, it's women of color, it's people of color, and it's, women in general. And so with all these demographics that are shifting, there is a huge opportunity. It has for women to embrace this career. And I think what is challenging, given the fact that I've been doing this since 2008, is to see that we have been speaking up and speaking up and speaking up. And it's taken so long for the industry to really have this catch on. The good news is I feel like the tide has turned. And I feel like there is so much more, although there needs to be more, people recruiting women, looking for people of color, conferences and things that are supporting, that are making sure that people are getting, main stage appearances and aren't all looking like, sorry, old, pale, and stale, they can be very nice people, but we need that diversity. So I really think the business case is that all this is happening and shifting. And so now women and people of color have an opportunity to be able to go to a variety of different financial services industries or companies and be able to know that they're in demand. And what I see from the women that I admire who are financial advisors is there's so much flexibility, there's so much creativity, there's so much ability to connect and use your connections to empower other people that I just think it's a really cool career. If I had a do-over, I might have started in this career, but by the time I discovered it, I'm best being a consultant and coach in this.
So many great points there. I think that tide turning, and you mentioned earlier that based on your anecdotal experiences, right, women really help break the money silence with their clients more easily. And so like, let's all get our sledgehammers and break that money silence for sure, which you did mention something about, if you had, rewind the clock, you probably would consider this as a career. So what advice would you give to younger KBK if we were exploring.
You don't have the time. I will keep it to financial services. So there's a couple of things. One is I do think I would have been a really great financial advisor. I didn't even know the career existed. If I had known, it's a great blend between, all the things I love to do. But in terms of kind of my relationship with money and what my advice would be there is because I was so conservative and because I grew up in a family where you didn't want to get too big of yourself. You didn't want to brag too much. You had to be humble. That in some ways I missed some opportunities, both professionally and also personally. So professionally, I really wish I had worked through my money mindset sooner. I had started my business sooner, and I had been able to really do what I love, because I absolutely love what I do, and I love that I'm successful in doing it. On a personal note, I really wish I had been less conservative and known more about investing in my 20s. I actually made a decent living working for the government as an auditor, and just didn't realize that taking risks in my 20s made a lot of sense in the long term in terms of acquiring wealth. But this has been my journey, and there's probably more to come with my money story and more I'll need to learn. But definitely 20-year-old KBK probably needed to loosen up a little bit and have a little bit more fun around money.
I love that. I think we all should have a little bit more fun around money. I do have one final question for you. You mentioned a lot about coaching and the mindset and the mantras and the community. So if I am in this industry, when should I start looking for a coach, and when does it make sense for me to seek external help to help me navigate all of those different components as part of my business?
Such an interesting question. And the reason I think it's interesting is because, over the course of my career, I've sought out coaching at different points of time. And so I think for someone listening in, it's often a time where you feel stuck, or you feel like you're spinning your wheels, or you just have a sense that, I'm not setting aside time to actually work on my business. I'm just running to the next client or doing the next thing. So if you want to be strategic, if you want to help somebody kind of help you look at certain aspects of your business and you're feeling stuck, I think that's often a time. And, you don't have to be in crisis stuck. You can just be like, Because I know for me, at the beginning of my career as an entrepreneur, I had a great coach. In the middle of my career, when I decided to take my speaking to the next level, I worked with a great coach for a number of years, which was so beneficial. And then recently worked with a coach when I just felt like, wow, this whole pandemic thing has kind of thrown me for a curve. I need to just chat through it. So for me, it tends to be when I feel a little stuck. And my clients often come to me when either they're feeling stuck or they're feeling like, I know I should negotiate better. I know I should price myself better. And I'm just tired of not doing it. So those are some of the times to kind of reach out.
If you're feeling strategic or if you're feeling stuck, both of those.
Strategic, stuck, or underpaid. How's that? That'll sum it up.
That sums it up. We're done here. Oh, perfect. Well, where can our listeners find you in this digital world?
I'll make it easy for you. All you have to do is go to my website at breakingmoneysilence.com. You will see my podcast, my online courses, my social media, and anything that I'm up to there. So breakingmoneysilence.com.
Well, KBK, we have really enjoyed you today. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and for giving us all the tips and tricks for our money mindset.
Thank you, Lindsey. It's been great breaking money silence with you today.
Thanks for joining us, and please leave a rating and review. To keep up with future episodes, subscribe to our show and follow us at our Women Working in Wealth social channels. This has been Women Working in Wealth, brought to you by the American College of Financial Services.